You've pushed yourself too hard and you've developed a rare disease. There's nothing more we can do medically. You have only 7 days left to live. Dave always believed that hard work was the key to everything. He was relentless, barely giving himself time to rest, let alone enjoy the fruits of his labor. Day after day, he worked from morning until night, often skipping meals or grabbing a quick snack between tasks. Even when he felt his body ache and his head pound, he would shrug it off, pushing any thought of rest aside. Seeing a doctor felt like a luxury he simply couldn't afford. There was always something more important to do, always another task waiting. Then one day his body had enough. A severe sickness hit him hard, leaving him barely able to stand. Reluctantly, he dragged himself to the doctor. As he sat in the sterile ward room, the doctor delivered the news that would change his life forever. Dave, the doctor said with a somber expression, I'm afraid your condition is severe. Your body is breaking down. You've pushed yourself too hard and you've developed a rare disease. There's nothing more we can do medically. You have only 7 days left to live. Dave felt his heart drop. 7 days? He whispered, as if saying it out loud might make it sound less real. The doctor nodded, and as he walked out of the hospital, Dave felt the weight of those words sink in. 7 days. How could he possibly fit a lifetime into 7 days? For the first time in years, he allowed himself to cry. But after the tears, he felt a strange determination. If I only have 7 days left, I'm going to live them fully. Dave went home, typed up a resignation letter, and submitted it without hesitation. The next day, he proposed to his girlfriend Sarah, and they married in a small, heartfelt ceremony. As they exchanged vows, Sarah noticed an urgency in his eyes, a deep intensity that made her wonder, but she didn't ask. With only 6 days remaining, Dave threw himself into life with a passion he had never known. He traveled to places he had only ever heard of, visited his old friends, laughing and reminiscing like there was no tomorrow. And for him, there wasn't. Each day, they filled with adventures he had always postponed. On the fifth day, he stood on a beach at sunset, holding Sarah's hand, feeling the warmth of the sand beneath his feet. He felt alive, more alive than he had ever felt before. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, he couldn't ignore the dread gnawing at him. 2 days left. On the sixth night, Dave sat outside under the stars, gazing up at the vast sky. Tears ran down his face as he whispered to himself, why did it take the threat of death for me to realize what I've been missing? I wasted so much time, and now, tomorrow, it's all over. He went inside, and as Sarah wrapped her arms around him, he finally told her, Sarah, I have something to confess. The doctor told me I only have 7 days to live. Sarah's face went pale. What? 7 days? Her voice was filled with a mixture of horror and disbelief. But, but you seemed so happy. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't want you to worry. I just wanted to live these days to finally feel alive, he explained, his voice breaking. Sarah held him tight, and together they spent that last night talking, laughing and crying. They shared stories, hopes, and regrets. Before drifting off to sleep, Dave whispered, if I don't wake up tomorrow, promise me you won't cry. The next morning, Sarah lay awake beside him, terrified to check if he was breathing. Slowly, she reached over, shaking him lightly. Dave, Dave, he stared, opening his eyes. I'm, I'm still here. He stared at her in shock, and she laughed and cried at the same time, pulling him close. From that moment on, Dave didn't waste a second. He decided not to go back to the hospital. Instead, he focused on eating well, spending time with Sarah, and continuing to explore the world. He filled his life with all the things he had missed before, finally prioritizing his happiness and health. 2 years passed, and in that time, Dave and Sarah had two beautiful children. Every day, Dave cherished them, grateful for each sunrise. He no longer feared death. He knew it would come when it was time. He only worried about living each day fully. One morning, Dave didn't wake up, but by then, he had already given his family memories that would last forever. And Sarah knew, as she held their children close, that Dave had finally learned what life was all about.